Welcome to Schoolin the SiSTEM podcast. I'm your host, Darian Kelly. And today I have a very special guest, DJ Johnson. DJ is the CEO of ITech, and he's an individual or person that's looking to make a difference in STEM. DJ, thank you so much for being on the show, man. It's a pleasure having you on.
Hey, I appreciate you reaching out to me and asking, man. I get a lot of requests from people, but yours was authentic. It wasn't one of them
Absolutely.
bots or nothing like that. It was authentic and right to the point. So I'm appreciative to be on here today, bro. For real.
Definitely. I appreciate it. And, just to get into it, just to kind of catch up. I mean, with COVID and everything that's going on, tell me just how, how's life been, in the state of COVID and just what's been taking place? Like, how's everything been for you so far?
It's been a balance, man. So, I outside of my nonprofit for iTech, I also work for Microsoft. And it's been a weird balance of like trying to balance work, not working too long. I'm also in school at Georgetown getting my MBA. So it's those days where you're trying to be on a computer for 12 hours. I had to get blue light glasses.
I'm wearing them now. I had to get the blue light in my own glasses.
Yeah, I ain't mad at you, bro. Like I had to get the blue light glasses. It's just been a weird balance, man. Like trying to keep that that work-life balance is hard because it's kind of all merging together. But truth be told, man, none of my family has been affected by COVID, so that has been a blessing. And for me, it's just been a time to just kind of like reset, recalibrate, and just really just focus in and lock in on the important things. So, outside of everything that's going on in the world, it's just been kind of a calming time for me just to kind of get aligned and get assessed and get some things going.
Certainly. So, just to set the background, I kind of wanted to start from the beginning. First off, I just wanted to say, man, you're, just doing the research, on who you are and just, first off, just your Instagram page is crazy because it's like, to me, it's like a one-stop shop for everything tech, from the news. Like, it's certain things, I don't even have to go to the news. I could just go to your page and then you have things on there, you have an authentic perspective. But I wanted to start from the beginning. One of the things that I noticed in one of the videos you posted was, ever since you were a child, you always had an obsession with computers. Yep. And I wanted to kind of start off with, how did that obsession over computers start? Like, where did that start for you as a child? Like, how did that come about?
Man, so funny thing, I was literally just talking to one of my mentors about this the other day. So I feel like I kind of hid my nerdiness for a long time. So I played football.
Okay.
I played running back, middle linebacker, safety. So like on the field, I was a tough guy. So like when off the field, I really didn't want people to like know that I like computers. So I used to hide that. And like even in my own group of friends, I had one of my friends, he was building these apps, but he was building them on like a generic like app where they write the code for you. But I know, like, bro, you got to have a front end developer, you got a back end developer, like, where are you pulling that data from? Like, you know what I'm saying? So I knew it at a deep level, but I didn't want to step on nobody's toes ever. So for me, I hid it for a long time, but it was funny because my dad, he had the the computer, the big old towers, the IBM joints back in the day, the big dinosaur joints.
Right.
I used to try to work on it. And my brother used to break it, but I used to be the one trying to mess around with it. So I used to mess around with Excel. I'm popping the side open, trying to fix stuff on it. He's like, man, my brother's name, David, quit messing with my computer, make mess with my computer. The whole time it was me, but I was just always infatuated with it. And my dad worked for Microchip and Intel.
Oh, wow.
So seeing him kind of go to work, and then when he took me to the Intel campus when I was around 10 years old, like I was kind of sold right there. I'm like, bro, this is crazy. Like, this is just a whole different world from what I had knew. But yeah, that's kind of where it kind of all started from. So I was hiding and just getting right behind the scenes.
And that was gonna be, my next question is because, I think, it's unique how you say you were kind of hiding it, right? You had this persona as this, this tough guy as a football player and things like that. And I was just going to get into, like, I know that, your persona kind of made you hide it as well. But were there any other factors, like, were there like were they like homeboys that you had that were like, oh man, you in the computers, man, we don't want to hear that, or like as a kid, like what, outside of just your persona, like what kind of like allowed you to just be, okay, I'm obsessed with this, but I really don't want a lot of people to really notice about me. You know what I mean? Like what was that like?
I think it was just me not being comfortable with myself. I think even to this day, it's like, I sit down and talk to people like, man, I didn't know you knew that.
Right.
But, like I played the violin from 9 until 17.
Oh, wow.
Nobody knew outside of my parents and my brother, so I think I was always different, but I felt because, I'm playing football. I got this, stigma of a football guy that I can't be over here playing the violin and trying to learn and be in a computer club and in school, like what that looked like. It just didn't mix. So it was just me being comfortable with myself. And, finally, now that I'm out here and I really see the value of technology, the STEM program, just like the game need people like me. I feel like I'm authentic. I never claim to be the smartest cat, but
right.
I can show you the way and I can talk to you at a level because I came from where you're trying to come from. I'm where you're trying to go.
Certainly. And for you, I guess you spoke on early on about football. So I had to, and me personally, like I played football in college. I played at a small D3 school in Pennsylvania called Susquehanna University.
Okay.
Played sports all my life. But for you, you personally, you played in college. You played at McPherson College. You played also in Canada. Tell me, it's like a two-part question. What did you love about the game so much, and what did you take from it to really help shape you as a man to this day? Because I know it's a lot of things that we play the game for so long, but it's also certain things that we as we become men and we get older that we can correlate between the game and just life. And I just wanted to know for you, what are some of those things that that you took away, and also like why did where did your love and passion for the game come from?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, man. So I started playing football when I was 9. My dad put me in the ball. Funny story, like I didn't even like football when I first started playing. Like I wanted to play basketball. I'm 5'11" on a good day, bro.
Look, I saw that. Look, I went and checked your bio out from college, and it said 6'1". So I know I know guys who in that 5'11", 6'1".
No, you know what it was, bro. So I had my junior year. We actually won the championship.
Right.
I went to the playoffs and everything. I was at the D3 as well. So went to the playoffs. I had a few looks from like the Saints, Chiefs, the Texans, and the Raiders.
Wow.
So the Titans coach actually came down and scout, looked at me like, you kind of short. Right. So my coach was like, well, shoot, if we're gonna get some more looks, we gotta boost your height up a little bit. I'm like, all right, there. So I was on thing at 6'1", but I was, I'm 5'11" on a good day. Right. But no, man, my pops put me in the ball. That was probably the best thing for me. Like for me, it's like a twofold thing, right? I think now at 31, the teamwork, like you gotta really be a good teammate. And I feel like ball was something that really taught me that now as a man. Right. I see that a lot of people that are like difficult to work with in all facets of life, business, relationships, even at work sometimes. But I feel like what I took from ball as a man, it's like, and I tell my mentees, it's like, hey, you got to be a great teammate, because a lot of times the decisions that are going to be made about you, you're not going to be in the room. And if you're a crappy teammate, then, you SOL for you. I think the second part is the same reason I fell in love with technology. So, with football, you got the base understanding, right? When you're little, it's like, hit, tackle, run, you know what I'm saying? But then as you get older, the game starts to evolve and it always become like a unique science and a beautiful dance. Same thing with tech. You get that base understanding, and then the older you get, you start putting pieces to the puzzle. That's why I love big data so much, because it's so much that goes into a company like a Netflix or a Google or a Facebook. So much goes into that. When it looks crazy, but it's really beautiful chaos. And I think that's one thing that kind of I took from ball and I applied to tech. It's like you can always know your playbook a little bit more, and eventually you want the game to slow down enough to where you can read the right keys and get exactly where you need to go.
Certainly, I think that you when you touch on it being a beautiful art, or just being more detailed and streamlined. I know there's a lot of correlations between that and being in tech and or within data, right? Just a little bit of background on me. Like my girlfriend is as a data analyst, and she's data analyst for Accenture. And she tells me just on her day to day, she's like the main point person. She's the main point of contact for this project that she's on with the AT&T. And she's like, you have to be streamlined. You have to be detail oriented because, one little, one little misstep or one little cue, it throws everything off. And you can relate that to not just football, but just any sport, right? Your coach, some of the best coaches is always, when you even, as a playing as a youth and even as you get older, it's like, one person mess up on the team, we all mess up. We all got to run. Someone didn't, show up to class. So we all going to run because of that. We all going to, everyone is being held accountable, but also it just shows how detailed and streamlined you have to be. So I can attest to a lot of those similarities even to this day.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, to your girlfriend's point, with data, you got to see the bigger picture. So, a lot of times I might go into an account. I work for Microsoft. They might have AWS. That's our biggest competitor.
Right.
But being a good teammate, knowing like, okay, you know what, hey, we're going to take this little they're going to give us right now, and we can expand on it for 5-6 months, a year, 5 years from now, and not be so mad because somebody else in there. You kind of learn how to play well with others, and, to your girlfriend's point as well. Like, if you can't mainstream that business, like, bro, you're going to be obsolete soon anyway.
That's a gem right there. That you gotta
like, you don't realize that data, bro. If you can't really mainstream it and really like maximize it, like, man, it's like you'll be surprised. You get on the phone with customers and data scientists, and they're trying to explain to their CTO and CEO and CMO, like, hey, like, we gotta evolve, we gotta change because X, Y, and Z over here, our competitor,
right?
Like, man, they got all their data in the cloud, and they moving, and it's like you get left behind, and you wonder why you losing market share, and people don't realize like the cloud hasn't been around that long. So data's been around forever. So obviously it's going to change and shift with the industry, but a lot of these companies, man, like they drag their toes and then they wonder why they lose that market share. So you got to be able to mainstream that business.
Absolutely. So for you, we just touched on the sports aspect of things, and I see a lot of correlations, and just from following you and just your platform is very tech focused, but also has a sport element to it. As you were transitioning out of playing sports, meaning whether you were come out of college and essentially transition into the professional world, right? Because it's not like you just rolled out of bed and just you're with Microsoft, right? Take me through what was that transition like, from a mental standpoint, going from playing ball to now I'm in this professional world. Talk to me about that mental transition and what was that journey like initially, like starting out, from the start.
So man, I think for me, that was probably the second hardest journey I had in my life. Like, so when you playing ball, man, it never crossed your mind it's not going to turn out that way.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, because you start, you're like, man, I know I'm good, right, and I'm getting these looks, and we winning these games, and I got people talking to me, and it just never crossed your mind that you just not gonna play ball until you're 35. Like, it just doesn't cross your mind at 21, 22 years old. So as you're making that transition, and then people around you start to change, really you start to change, and then you gotta literally put down something you've been doing for since you was 9 years old, in 15 years. Like, that's a big part of you that's gone. Now you got to find something else to really fill that void. I think I was lucky enough. I feel like, I don't know if it was God's grace or just like timing or what it was, but like my first job out of college, it was a call center, but it was selling IT certifications. So I had like a little bit of background from my pops working at Intel, my uncle had worked at Microsoft, so had a little bit of tech insight, but it just seemed like after that transition of just trying to like find myself and like, getting up every day and showing up every day, applying job after job, no after no, and really just kind of like putting myself out there, I landed a job at a call center selling IT certifications. And then I did that job probably for a little over 2 years. I got a break over at Dell. So my mentor now, his name is Jason Carter. Shout out to Jason. Jason gave me an interview. Literally, I had no real tech sales experience for business. Like, I'm doing 200 calls a day, selling IT certs, he actually gave me a job as an inside sales rep handling strategic accounts. So like that was a big switch.
Right.
But just that whole time, bro, like going from ball to corporate, it's something I talk to my mentees about. Like, bro, this is a marathon. Like, we don't want to sprint directly to where we're going, because a lot of times you overextend yourself and you overexert yourself, and you don't really make it to the finish line. So for me, I always was like, hey, you know what? I got a degree. I know I'm smart. I know what I want to do. That's half the battle. I know I'm ultimately end up getting there. So after I got over the ego part of like, damn, I'm not a pro baller no more, not playing ball no more, I kind of had to take a back seat and be like, dang, you know what, you good, bro? Because a lot of cats that I went to school with, some of them couldn't read. You know how it is, bro. In the locker room, cats can't read. You know what I'm saying? People like they can't fill out a job application. So I was just thankful that I went to a small school. My professor, his name was Rod Gieselman, probably one of the like worst professors I had, bro. He went to University of Michigan. Their business program is crazy. He was super hard on us. And I was thankful. I'm like, I got some skills. It's gonna take me a little bit longer, but I feel like I got something here, and I just went to work and just did it. Just the same way you were doing ball.
Yeah, I think that you when it hit me when you said ego, right? Yep. I think that when it's a difference when you go from, you playing ball, you run a team, you have a lot of like commonalities, so it's like, you're, or not commonalities, but as an athlete, your production and what you do on that field, it defines you. Like if you're not producing, you don't feel the same, or you don't feel good. And you think that defines you, and you get into the, to the corporate world, and you realize like the same, you can't go, if you have a disagreement in the office, it's not like you can get in somebody's face or be like, strap up. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's go. Exactly. I played on the offensive side, like I played wide receiver, tight end. So it was always, times in which I remember in college where, offense, defense, there's always some chirping. I have DBs saying, I shut you down, and we'll do one-on-ones, and it's a totally different story than that. You think like that defines you. But I think oftentimes, like you said, you got to remove your ego when you're transitioning, because if you don't remove it, your losses as you transition, or might not even losses, I don't even call them losses, but more so your speed bumps as you're trying to like adjust. Like you said, it's a marathon, right? You're not going to get it. It's an adjustment period. You got to be patient with yourself. Whenever you hit those little speed bumps or you hit those walls, if you tune into your ego, it might seem like the end of the world, and you don't even want to keep going. You get what I'm saying? So I thought, what you said there is 100% on point as far as, transitioning as an athlete into the professional world, to corporate. You got to remove the ego, because you won't have any longevity. Somebody might critique how, how you dress, or be like, man, you should dress like this, or I think you should do this or that. And you would think the person is, trying to tear you down. So that ego, removing the ego is 100% important.
But the thing is, I feel like us is like, it's crazy. I'm 31 now, but I'm older now because I've been in corporate America for almost 10 years at this point.
Right.
But one thing I think about is when I first went into my first job selling those IT certs, my director, he was Michael Pittman's father. So that's how I got the job. Like I showed up. Yeah, I showed up, suit too big. Right. Like I had on my championship ring. The interview, and we start talking ball. He's like, man, I'm gonna give you a shot. Right. But one thing I appreciated about Mr. Pittman was he put me on game. He was like, hey, I'm gonna tell you right now, like that football, like you gotta throw that out the window, because you kind of gotta like, you go from like here to like back there, because like you all American, all conference, all that, and you get love and everybody think you're so great, and then it's like, okay, now you in the real world, you a regular person, you ain't in the NFL. It's a hard reset. So Mr. Pittman kind of put that gem on me, and I was like, dang, like I gotta make sure that once I get to that point, I can kind of each one teach one. He always told me, he's like, man, I know you're gonna go far, so just make sure when you do, you grab another brother like yourself or a sister, and you put them on game. He said, because those athletes, they don't know how to make that transition, because everybody always tell you it's GoPro or bust.
Right.
That ain't gotta be the case.
I agree. for you, I think one of the things that well, I was watching the video that you did when this was like post you gave a talk to students in the DC public school system.
Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah, I was watching that video, and you mentioned support system, like having the advantages of having a strong support system. And I know that you spoke of how like you had in your circle, like everyone went to college. You know what I mean? Everyone is is doing something productive, and is on a positive kind of a environment, like, and all about progression and coming up. My question is, for you, how important is having that support system, is having that solid circle of individuals that you can lean on, you can get advice, but also you can look at them as motivation. Like, how important is having those people around you and in your life?
Man, I feel like without my guys, like I wouldn't be right here right now, because like I grew up in South Central, moved to Phoenix with my pops, and it's a lot of dudes that was way better than me at ball, but they never played college football. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of people that I know that was way smarter than me, but like they not working in Silicon Valley. I feel like it was the structure of my friends, where we was trying to go. And I feel like at some certain point, we always kind of like saved each other from something. But we were just always trying to be the best. And I think the commonality came from football, right? So after practice, when everybody else is going and smoking weed and chasing girls, hey, let's go to the weight room, bro. Let's try to get a little bit better. Or during the weekends, we spending 10 hours at the park, in Phoenix, Arizona, 110. So it's like that. I think our mindset was always like, hey, we got to be working to get better. And ultimately, like, if we do that, like, everything is going to turn out okay. So we didn't even know when we was younger. It was just like, hey, it's us, it's our crew, and we just going to work. Like, it might not even be the right work, but we going to work. We're going to stay out of trouble. And I think it's just translated to like what we're doing now. Like, one of my boys, my cousin, played in the NFL. My other boy, he's an Olympic champion. One of my other friends, Jamil, he works in corporate America, killing it. My friend Krishan's a coach over Arkansas. Like, I'm in Silicon Valley. So it's like, we all doing things in our own right, but I think it just all came from that accountability to be like, hey, bro, like, we ain't gonna leave behind, but you better get on this train because it's going, and you got to be on your best behavior, So I think that's just what it was, man.
Yeah, and you, I think also too, I mean, I'm pretty sure that there was some people you might have had to leave behind. You mentioned that you grew up in South Central. I grew up in Baltimore City.
Okay.
And
wait, hold on, wait. Are you a Ravens fan?
I'm not a Ravens fan. I'm not a Ravens fan. I can't. I'm not a Ravens. I support. Listen, I support them. Like, it's funny. Like, all the people who tell you that they're not Ravens fans from Baltimore, they low key still support the Ravens.
Oh,
like,
what? I'm not even from Baltimore. I'm not with the Ravens. I
got so it's funny you say that, because I saw you with the Lamar Jackson. They
came down at the Coliseum. I was front and center.
They did. They went crazy. They went crazy. I'm a Saints fan. I grew up a Saints fan. I love
okay.
Drew Brees. Like, I remember when they won a Super Bowl. I had the Reggie Bush, 25. I was invested in that. But
yeah.
But back to what I was saying about, like, you grew up in South Central. I grew up in Baltimore City. And it's funny, we have a lot of commonalities in the sense that you mentioned your mom was an educator. She taught in the LA Unified School District. My mother taught in the Baltimore City public school system, taught in the Capital school system, etc. My point is that, how did you, when it was times in which, you had friends or guys maybe in the neighborhood, or maybe guys that you played with, because not everybody makes it, you know what I'm saying? Not everybody, it's always a decision, or it's always some things that take place where, you went this way and they went that way. Like, I'm pretty sure you can attest to that. Like, how were you able to kind of still, even be in the midst of, extreme circumstances, or, times that, just you know, situations in which you had to really use your head, like how were you able to make those decisions and say, hey, I'm gonna go this way in spite of that? Like, I know, you know, we cool, but like, how were you able to kind of decipher, okay, which way to go, you know, at those points and times, you know, within your upbringing?
No, that's a great question, man. So I was just talking to my pops about this probably like a month ago, and I'm like, it's crazy because as you get older, like I don't have any kids yet, but I got nieces, nephews, and you know, god kids. But it's crazy as you get older, you like, then you still don't know as much as you think you know. You got so much more to learn.
Right.
And it's like, I think back to my dad, he raised me and my brother and my two sisters. And it's like, he just trying to figure life out. So it's like, you think, I'm like, dang, why my dad being so hard on us? But it's like, now that I'm sitting where I am now, I'm like, I told my dad, I'm like, bro, like, I appreciate you. Like, you probably felt like you was too hard. I'm like, but like, you did it. I see why you did it. So I feel like if my pops was a huge influence. But I also feel like for me, man, like I remember when I had moved with my dad, I was with him probably for like 4 years. I wasn't feeling it in Arizona. I'm like, bro, I gotta go back to LA.
Right.
So I remember like somehow, some way I was able to convince my dad to let me like go back for like spring break. I'm like, man, bump it, bro. Like, I ain't going back. I'm like, bro, I'm back in Cali, bro. I'm about to be going to Carson. Like, we going up. Like, I ain't going back to AZ.
Right.
Funny story, I go to the Slauson and Crenshaw Supermall, going to buy some clothes and stuff. I bump into one of my old boys. His name is Jeremy. So he called my name, but I didn't recognize him. I'm like, who's that? And my mom, I think that's Jeremy. I'm like, nah, ain't Jeremy.
Right.
It's Jeremy, but Jeremy is on drugs.
Right.
It's a bad situation.
Right.
Literally, I'm like, hey, mom, I need to go back to Arizona so I can go to football practice.
Yeah.
So I feel like it was just certain points in my life where right when I was about to get off track, again, I don't know if it was like God sent me a signal or
no, it is. It wasn't. You at this stage, you can't say you don't know because you definitely know. You gotta.
But the thing is though, I know a lot of other cats that would have seen that and would have been like, hey, like let me, you know, let me. So like I said, I don't know if it's just my own intuition or if it's just God was like, hey, bro, like that's not for you. And a lot, like I said, a lot of it came from my pops, bro. Like my pops was on me, bro. Like he was on me about every little thing. I used to hate my dad. Like, bro, every time you got me waking up early on Sunday to cut this grass, bro, for what?
Right.
But now I understand why he was doing that. Like, bro, you got to be able to get up and go get it. Ain't nobody gonna give it to you. And he teaching me discipline. Like, especially in a time like right now, like there's a lot of people that's like losing their jobs because they don't have anybody over them to tell them to do their work. So it's like my dad instilling that in me, like, bro, you got to get up, you got to go do what you got to do. And, you know, you got to get your own, because if not, like, you're going to be, you know, SOL. So I feel like a lot of it was my pops, a lot of it was my mom. And then it was just a few certain situations that I seen like real life evidence of like, dang, bro, like, I don't know what that is, but I don't want to be that. And, you know, stayed on that course.
For you, just getting into ITech, right? This is why we tech. And I think what's fascinating is that you can't, like you described it as an organization, right? I don't look at it as an organization personally. I look at it as a movement, right? I respect movements. Break down what is ITech and what's the mission behind your movement.
Yeah. So ITech it's like two different levels to it, right? So we got the bottom level, which is for the youth, for the kids, right? So growing up in South Central, you know, resources is limited. You know, you start talking about resources in circles. There's nowhere in South Central where you can go and get in a robotics program or learn basic coding or to even, you know, get a tablet or a computer. Like there's nowhere in LA you can do that. So that's the first part. I was like, I want to get these kids early exposure to technology so they can fall in love with it and just know like it's an option. You know what I mean? I feel like a lot of times, especially as kids, if we don't see it, like we just don't believe it. So, you know, shout out to Microsoft, because Microsoft actually partnered with me. They're going to allow me, once COVID is over, to do 4 field trips a year to the headquarters up in Silicon Valley, the one in LA. And then if I want to go and do stuff across the country, I have access to those campuses too. And then the second part of ITech is for the recent college graduates, right? So One thing that kind of frustrated me when I was coming out of school was like, dang, bro, like I got a degree. I'm supposed to be making this. They telling me I ain't got no experience. So that second part of that program is like, hey, come on and enroll in ITech as a sophomore or junior. We're gonna get you some internships under your belt, get you some certifications under your belt. That way, by the time you get done with school, we're gonna have you rocking and rolling in a paid job or a paid internship and get you on a fast track for your career. Cause like, you know, I already went through that. So I'm like, there's no reason for my people that are coming up to have to go through that. It just doesn't make sense. So that's really what iTech is, man. Like it started off as just like me helping people, and then like it just morphed into, you know, a whole movement. And the thing I love about the motto, like this is why we tech, everybody's this can be different, you know, like I tech for South Central and my mom, you know, some of my mentees, you know, they tech for, you know, the South Side of Chicago, other people tech for, you know, Dallas, Texas. So it's your own wave or whatever you want to make it to be. And just know you got that close-knit family and those connections to really leverage once it come time to go.
Yeah, and I think that's important, that, you know, I'm starting to see this now more than anything is a lot of us, you know, young Black professionals, when we're a part of these big corporations, we're really using, I like the fact, I love, not even like it, I love the fact that we're using our platform to, you know, to bring other people and to bring other people with us. You know what I mean? And giving them options. Because I think going, you know, it's funny, a lot of what you're saying is, you know, I hear a lot of like, I hear a lot of like Don Kenny, like you said, like, you know, it's basically, it's hard to catch what you can't see, but he had a TED talk where he was like, you know, he was talking about his dad about options. You know what I'm saying? I think that's another thing too, when we're coming up as kids, you know, a lot of other youth or that people that we probably grew up around didn't have the options that we had. You know what I mean? Didn't have those options. So I think it's huge to use your platform, you know, to bring other people. But, you know, there may be some, you know, professionals or maybe some, you know, college graduates who are entering into enter into these big corporations, right? They're getting these jobs, they're becoming these analysts. How, I guess, speak to how you were able to kind of set up those partnerships and relationships to the point where you can say, I'm going to take, you know, X amount of students in my organization to the Microsoft campus and do those things. Like for someone who's, you know, somebody might be listening to this, you know, a young Black, you know, individual coming, you know, going to work at like Snapchat or something like that, you know, you just never know. Like, how can they form those relationships in the companies to do something similar to what you're doing?
So man, it's business 101. Like I feel like I've always been an entrepreneur at heart. It's just business 101, right? Supply and demand.
Right.
I feel like right now, diversity and inclusion, like it's not even about any other race right now. They looking for people like me, like you.
Right.
They're like, we need to find more Black people to get in our company because they're so far like underrepresented. Right. And it's not like it's like startups that been around for 1 or 2 years. You're talking about companies that have been around for decades.
Right.
That have out of 100% of people in their company globally, you got 2% that are Black.
Right.
Like the numbers just don't add up. So it's simple. Like right now, like if you work for any of these big companies, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Snapchat, Facebook, right, you got all the leverage. Hey, I know our numbers are down. I know we're looking to make a difference. Hey, you know what? I know some friends and colleagues that are looking and interested in technology. I would love to start helping you guys create a pipeline to get these guys some roles in Silicon Valley, right? It's a simple transaction. Like they always say like, oh, there's no option for like talent. That's not the case. I'll tell them the problem is you guys create this unicorn list of all these checkboxes that you check, these boxes you got to check. And truth be told, some of these kids they can't go to an unpaid internship for a whole summer because their mom and dad, they can't afford that. Right. They might come from a single parent home or who knows what the situation is, but you asking them for, you know, 2 years experience at your company, but you want them to work for 2 summers for free, they can't do that. So let's take a step back and look at, okay, hey, this person got some passion, they eager to learn, you know, like they really eager to be in technology. Let's give that person a chance to see what they can do with it. But I tell them all the time, like if like me personally, I'll take a person that wants over a person that know-hows any day. Because when you really want to do something, you just gonna do it at a different level. Like, I really want to do this versus like, okay, I know how to do this, but you don't really appreciate it. I feel like once you really want to do something and you learn it through that process, like I be seeing these kids, man, like they just like, dang, I didn't know that this was even an option. Versus a kid that grew up with all the resources. They're like, oh yeah, well, engineering is not such a big deal.
Right.
Like, bro, engineering, the stuff that I do, like business, like, bro, that can change lives, bro. Like, and it's like our kids, they need to see it. They love to see it, and I feel like it's going in a different direction now, especially with everything that's going on in America.
You posted, and I was able to take a look at the videos you posted on networking, and you were talking about the conversations that you were having, you know, within your own personal network, and just some of the gems you were taking away from those conversations. And one of the things you mentioned in part one was, you know, adding a human element to networking. And I think that, just to, you know, add some context to that, me personally, I'm gonna speak to myself. You said that, you know, when people ask you like, how are you doing, they don't want to hear, you know, it's so easy to, you have some people who say like, this is what I'm doing at work, right? You know, somebody was like, oh, like, what's going on, D? Like, DK, what's going on, man? Like, I'm working on this, I'm working on that. And it's like, sometimes it might not even be about that. They may want to know about family. They might want to know about, you know, the game or the Super Bowl that's coming up. So I guess my question is, you know, how do you kind of, you know, as you know, being someone that works really hard and that's an obsessive, and you're perfecting your craft, you know, what is, like, I guess, your advice for people, to the ones that are more like myself, that are very like into like what they do and they talk about all the time? Like, how do you get them, or how do you create that balance to the point where like you can talk about that, but that's not everything? Like, how do you get people to have more human interactions or human conversations when they're networking?
You know, my mentor, he told me the biggest thing, you know, what you do is what you do, is not who you are. I think if you approach it with that aspect, like, that's going to get you in the door 9 times out of 10 times. Because, and so that conversation came from, I'm in this mastermind group for young up and coming professionals. And the guy was pretty much just saying, he was like, I don't hang around people that talk about work all the time. He said, because he was like, it's one or two things. Either one, you know, you're running from some issues that is probably going to come out later on when we got the project going. Or the second part is like, bro, you just too money obsessive. And like you get it, right? Like, you know, everybody got a mission. You got your own journey. You got to do what you got to do to make it. And everybody got their own goals. But the biggest thing he was telling us, it was like, the stuff that you feel like people don't care about, that's your currency right there. Because you're from somewhere different, I'm from somewhere different. So work aside, work is going to be there. You know, like, stuff I do with ITech, stuff I do with Microsoft is going to be there. But us getting a common ground and really understanding each other, that's what's going to continue that relationship for us to get into the deep talk about the business. How can we help each other? How can we leverage it? But if there's no real common ground, it's just pretty much like you shaking a hand and not even introducing yourself. Because nobody knows who you are and what you like. All they know is, well, that's what he do, but I don't know who he is.
Right.
Think about it.
Yeah. No, and I think that's true. I think and you mentioned this. I don't know the exact video, the number, and I could be off, but I remember what you said. You said that, you know, it's about getting the most out of your network, or networking at a higher level, meaning like you can say you know that person, but if that person can't make a call or get you an interview or put you next to that person, it's time to kind of reevaluate your network. And I feel like, you know, the times we're living in now, it's the cool thing, especially on like social media and things like that, to say, I know this person, or I can take a picture with this person, or I can do a throwback Thursday and say, look, this me, so-and-so. But when's the last time you talked to that person? Like, can you really, like, are you going to get the, let me hit you back? You know what I mean? So I think what you just said there is very, very on point when it comes to networking, because it's levels to it, but I don't think people really dig deep into, like, you know, what those levels are and how to do it effectively.
But like, think of it like this, take it a step further. So like, when I think about STEM, it's not cool, right? Because you don't see too many Black people, and it's just
Right.
it's hard to get into. So with my network and the connections I got, I literally did it last week. One of my mentees called me. He said, "Hey man, I got this great idea for this Apple Music platform to make it better. Like I really want to run it by Apple. Like, I bet I know the designer over there. Oh, for real? Yeah, I'm gonna call her right now. Hold on. Call her, 3-way call. Connect on LinkedIn.
Right.
He like, bro, I just talked to the people at Apple. I said, yeah, I know. Because now it's a valuable option. You can't just be telling people like, oh, you can go and do this.
Right.
Oh yeah, I'm over here doing this, but it's like, bro, you over here talking about you got all this stuff, you doing all, you ain't got no proof of it. We try to get together and do some business. You can't deliver on it. It's like, bro, what are we really talking about right now?
Right.
So it's like, for me, it's like you said, networking at that high level and really be having that personal relationship. Like I can call high recruiters over at Amazon. Hey, when is y'all internship program? What are y'all looking for? How many people of color do y'all need? Like, do y'all have a person of color internship program? Is it, what can I do to get my people in? Oh, you can't, you know what? Let me call Google. So it's like, you can really like make impact on people's lives and they can see it in real time. Cause I see so many people, man, like they get caught up in the look of stuff. It's like, bro, like, why are you so worried about looking like you're doing something? Like I never fathomed that. And like it make my like skin crawl when I be seeing. I'm like, bro, you up here looking like you're doing something,
right?
And then I talk to people that work with you. They like, yeah, well, he ain't really doing that. It's like, bro, what's that for?
Right.
You know.
Yeah. And I think you segue into my next question. You know, as far as being confident in your story, right? Because I think oftentimes when you're not confident, it allows for you to kind of speak of yourself or think of yourself in a way in which you're really not that, or you're really not saying what you're doing because you're not, there's no belief, right? There's no belief into the real person who you are. And I was watching the video and you expressed how your mentee was saying how they didn't want to say, or they were kind of like apprehensive about admitting that they were from the South Side of Chicago. Yeah. And when I watched it, I'm not gonna lie, like I laughed because not in the sense of like the situation, but I can relate to that on a personal level. And you know, me personally, like, you know, when I say like I'm from Baltimore, right? To a person that's not from Baltimore, never met anybody from Baltimore City, you're gonna think of Freddie Gray, you're gonna think of the riots, you're gonna think of The Wire, you're gonna think of like all of these, you know, I guess like negative things or portrayals to a person who's actually, if you from there, if you really from it, you know that that area and that environment has produced some of the greatest people we've ever seen across so many different, you know, from artists to, you know, professionals to just every and all aspects of life. So just going back to just the individual, you know, what are your tips on helping people be more confident in their stories and who you are, but not tips, more so for you, like as an individual, like as DJ, like how did you get to a point where you can say like, this is who I am and speak confidently to that in you know, in these, you know, in these mastermind groups or just in general, like how did you get to that point?
No, that's a great question, D. So before I got into tech, I left Dell. I left angry, and then I was like, I'm gonna go work for myself, and I'm gonna go become a sports agent. So I literally had launched my own sports agency. I did it for almost 2 years. I ended up losing everything. So I was like, dang, bro. Like, but during that time when I was being a sports agent, I never felt like myself. I'm up here trying to, you know, talk a certain way. I'm wearing suits and I'm kissing butt. I'm like, bro, this just is like draining, bro. Like, damn, like, so, you know, so I feel like once God took that away from me, I had to go back to my mom's house, slept on my mom's couch for like 8 months. It was just an epiphany of like, bro, like, this is you. And it was, the reason why I feel like I had to lose all that and go back was like, bro, that's not what God got for you. Like, God gave you a gift and it's this technology stuff, and you know, you pissing it away. And then secondly, like, you being ashamed of where you come from. And I was having this conversation with one of my partners. They was like, oh, well, you know, like, you spent some time in Phoenix, but like, you never talk about it. I'm like, Well, bro, truth be told, like I was back in LA with my mom for most of my breaks.
Right.
And me and my pops, he moved us to like the suburbs when I was like 12. So I'm like, bro, I'm not from there. I don't connect to that.
Right.
So for me, it was like falling in love with my story all over again and being like, bro, like it's okay that you from South Central LA.
Right.
And I feel like another thing, the two that kind of like made me realize, like you said, bro, so many cool people that come from South Central. Like one of my idols, RIP to Nip, like Nip came from South Central.
RIP.
You know, so like for me, it was just one of those things of like, bro, you see people all the time that go to Princeton, Harvard, and Yale, and I think that's great. But bro, you talk to me, everybody, I swear to God, every time I go into meetings and I tell them what I do, people start talking to me, they look at me like I'm a black unicorn, bro, no lie.
For sure.
Because it's like the situation that I came from, the way I carry myself, what I'm doing, they can't really wrap their mind around them and fathom it. But I feel like that's why Microsoft and all these other tech companies, they love me so much. Like if I showed you my LinkedIn, I got recruiters from Google, like Salesforce,
right?
Any tech company you think about it.
Right.
Hey, DJ, can we talk to you, get you on the phone? Because it's something different when you like, hey, you know what? We got this person from Harvard or Yale. And ain't nothing against that. Like I pray to God my kids can go that route. But I think it's also something that's really special in that different background. You know, like I said, it's that beautiful chaos of like, dang, it kind of almost again, you start talking about networking.
Right.
And I want to see how he came from down there.
Right.
And he's sitting right here with me. And you just got to fall in love with your story. And I'm actually doing a speaking engagement with University of Texas next Friday. And that's something I'm gonna talk about. Like, bro, you gotta own your story. Like, bro, you can't be ashamed of where you come from, because where you come from, it gives you permission for where you're going. And I feel like a lot of times, I think people that get lost on that road, they forget where home is. Like, bro, you gotta have a North Star. And I know for me, my North Star is South Central, right off Rosecrans. And it's like that's where I'm at. That's where my mom still stay over there. I go back over there. Hey, schoolboy, what's going on? Like, what's good? Like, you know, so it's like that's my North Star. And when I get stuff gets hard, I think about, dang, this is just too much.
Right.
Like you came from that. You came from that. This is a walk in the park.
And you know, one of the things you touched on, you know, RIP to Nipsey. I noticed that, you know, on your entire social media, you know, from your videos to, you know, just everything, just most of the things that you promote, you have a quote or a song, and it really had me thinking, you know, maybe want to ask you as far as not even just Nip, but also rest in peace to Kobe. I see a lot of Kobe, you know, both of them. You know, I saw like on your laptop, you have the I think it's a screen protector of some sort on the laptop. So it just shows that, you know, they played a tremendous role in your life. When you look at those two individuals, right? Kobe had the Mamba mentality, Nip had the marathon. They had these mantras, right? My thing is, what is your mantra, or you know, what is that mantra you keep telling yourself that keeps you going? Because they had theirs, they had their mantra or their mentality that made them great, and it helped them push through. What's that mantra for DJ?
So I think mine is, it's not so much of a mantra, but a scripture from the Bible. So like my favorite verse from the Bible is Hebrews 11:1. It's about faith. So like I tell everybody, like, you know, when you're doing what you're doing, you gotta have a solid foundation of faith, because like stuff is not always gonna go your way. And I feel like a lot of people get off track because the minute something go wrong, they start to panic. I feel like I've been blessed enough because I done went through so much. When stuff start going wrong, I kind of start smiling. Oh, it's about to be a big hit coming next. All right, for sure. Because every time it stormed in my life, it always was coming out like, hey, all right, it stormed. Now there's sunshine, and bro, this is just crazy.
Right.
So like for me, like my mantra is just faith, bro. Like I stand on my faith so strong. It's like I can't really even explain it, because again, we talk about where I came from and where I'm at. Like, no lie, DK, I be laying in the bed sometimes at night, and I be like, bro, you really work for Microsoft, bro. You got a nonprofit, and you partner with AWS and Microsoft.
Wow.
Like, bro, they really want to know what you got to think. And I'm just like amazed, like, bro, like I could have never seen that coming, bro. I could have never dreamt that up.
Right.
Like, I'm helping people get jobs at NBC. You know, one of my mentees just got a job with Mercedes-Benz as a data scientist. And it's like, I'm like, bro, like, how did you even, I could have never dreamt that.
Right.
But I had faith to, like, I was like, you know what? Allow me to help as many people as I can. And as I go on this journey, I want to bring as many people as I can with me. That's all I want to do. And that's what I've been doing.
100. I definitely see that in everything that you do. Just from, you know, just from following you, that's something that it's not just like you're talking it, but you're living it. So I can respect that to a high level. This part of the show is called Taking Them to School, right? We always, you know, we call it like the fun part of the show, where we try to, you know, ask questions to kind of, you know, get a better, you know, better look at, you know, our guests, you know, from on a more human level, if you will. So for you, just first question, you know, when you know, I see that, you know, I know that you work for Microsoft, right? You have your own, you run your organization, you know, you're dropping content. What are you doing when you're not doing that? When you're not, you know, online, and when you offline, and like, what are some of the hobbies? What are some of the things that you do in the meantime?
So, bro, you got so if you met, well, once you get to know me, support DK, you're gonna see, like, so me and my brother, bro, like, we fuck goofballs, bro. Like,
right.
I'm messing with him, he messing with me.
Right.
You know, I'm chopping it up with him about stuff. I watch a lot of sports. I try to stay active. Like, it's hard though, because, like, I always compare my body to when I was playing. I'm like, bro, you can't even.
Long gone.
I'm like, bro, you couldn't fill an 8 gap for nothing right now, dog. Like, but I'll be working out hard. I'm like, bro, I'm in the gym, you know, and I'll be just chilling, bro. Like, I was telling one of my partners today, I'm like, bro, like, I really like value like my downtime, where I'm just like watching TV, or just like, you know, I'm a big cigar smoker, so I love smoking cigars. I smoke Cohibas, and yeah, bro, I just be kicking it, bro. Like, I'm really like an old soul. Like, I don't be doing too much. Like, I'm mad right now because we can't really like travel, because I probably would have took a few vacations by myself, solo dolo, but I don't be doing too much, bro. I'll just be chilling. Like, 9 times out of 10, if you hit me, like, I'll probably be laying on the couch, bro. Like,
fair enough. It's no way to be, man. You always gotta find that balance. You always gotta you know, find ways to chill out. What would, I guess, if it was one thing that you could tell your I guess your college self, one piece of advice that you could tell, maybe, you know, I guess DJ at 18 years old, looking at, you know, where you are now at 31, what's like one thing you would tell that your 18-year-old self?
Be true to yourself. Don't be scared with other things, and then like, know your worth. I feel like at 18, I was way too concerned with what other people were doing, what other people were saying. And like, I don't know, man, like, it's just looking back on it, it's like, bro, I feel like I lost so much time trying to fit into a box that just wasn't for me. And it's like, bro, you could have easily been all the way up the road, but you up here trying to go on this off road. Like, bro, that ain't your path that God got for you.
Who in your opinion is gonna win the Super Bowl, and why?
Bro, that's tough, bro. No, you know why? Because I was telling my brother and my cousin, we were talking about it, and I was like, I wasn't impressed with the Bills. Everybody was on this Bills bandwagon. Like, I'm like, and it wasn't just because they beat my team. I'm just like, they just didn't match up well against KC. But I look at Tampa, I look at KC. Tampa's defense is amazing. They're phenomenal.
Nasty. D-line, nasty.
Their D-line is crazy. You know what I'm saying? So
their front seven is just,
it's out of this world. So like, as a defensive player, I'm like, bro, I as bad as I want to go with Tampa,
right?
But then I'm like, bro, Patrick Mahomes over there,
you can't doubt him.
You know what I'm saying? They got Travis Kelce, but then I'm like, bro, like Tom Brady on the other side. So I feel like this is the first time really where I haven't even really been like able to say like this team is going to win for sure. But like I don't bet it, but if I had to bet, like I gotta put my money on Tom Brady, bro. I feel like he's been there so many times.
10 times. He did.
You know, even Patrick Mahomes, he's been there last year, but I feel like, bro, Tom been there so many times, bro. And it's just like it's gonna be something that's gonna pop up, something that he gonna know, and you know, it's gonna give him that slight advantage. I think that's gonna be the difference.
Definitely. And my last question is, we like to ask all our guests is, in your opinion, what does it mean to school the system?
And that's a deep question. Um, I think for me is will be exposure and I would say a willingness, but a responsibility to teach the next ones that's coming up behind you. Because I see so many people that get up here and you can't even talk to them. Like, you know, they already give you some generic advice, like, oh, just keep going.
Right.
It's like, bro, that's not gonna happen. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like somebody being like, oh, like you could come to my house and be like, oh, where you live at? Oh, I live off the 202.
Right.
Bro, like where at exactly? Like, how do I get there?
Right.
Oh, you'll figure it out. So, like, I think for me is that responsibility to really, you know, mentor the youth, people that's coming up that look like you, help them out. Because for me, I think the biggest thing that I really love about ITech is creating that network and that pipeline of everybody kind of putting everybody on. And I feel like us as a culture, us as people, we don't do that enough. We don't really extend that olive branch, and a lot of other races do. So you talk about schooling the system, like we can't school the system if enough of us ain't in school, or if we're not willing to teach the ones when we already are in school.
That's heavy. I think that's something that, you know, when we listen to this and we hear this, that last part of, you know, what you just said, as far as, you know, we can't school them if we're not in school. We're not focused on that, you know, each one teach one, giving back, bringing everybody with us. I feel like that mentality is everything.
Yeah.
DJ, it was a pleasure, man. I want to thank you. This was one of my favorites, just from, you know, just a lot of commonalities like that. I want to thank you for coming on. I appreciate it, man. I think that beyond this show, I think this is a start, like more sort of launch pad of a lot of different things. And I feel as though, you know, the audience as a whole can learn a lot from your story, your mission, you know, your movement, you know, within your organization, and just where you're going. So I just, again, man, I'm grateful, man. I really appreciate you coming on.
Hey, I'm honored to come on, bro. Like I said, you ever need me on again, like I'm all for it. And then I'm doing my tech talk. I'm gonna start bringing people on, so you're gonna have to come on mine this next time around.
Absolutely. I more than happy to be on, man. Yep, definitely. But yeah, it was like I said, a pleasure having you on, man. Enjoy the rest of your evening. And yeah, stay safe.
Yeah, I appreciate you, boss.
All right, take care.